It seems like no matter what happens, the Boston Celtics are like cockroaches that always find ways to stay relevant. And trust me, I am a hater, so you can go ahead and call me that in the comment section because I cannot stand the Boston Celtics. But despite my obvious hate, I have a YouTube channel to make videos about, and I need to talk about the Boston Celtics because it's about damn time. I have to give them credit where it's due. Players like Jayson, Tatum, and Jalen Brown leading the helm of their young core, they've not only established a team that can compete right now for a championship, but they're going to be doing that for many years to come in the future. But this team isn't specifically targeting the future, it is targeting right now. And when I look at this Boston Celtics roster, there's a lot of very interesting parts of this team that I would like to talk about in this video, and if they can win the Eastern Conference and potentially a championship this season. But before we get started, if you enjoyed this kind of content, drop a like down below in your opinions in the comment section, as well as hit that subscribe button and that bell for post notifications. But without further ado, let's talk about the Boston Celtics and if they are legit contenders. For one, when I look at this team up and down, it is a very solid roster that can go about 8 to 9 men deep, with players like Tatum, Walker, Jalen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Marcus Smart, Daniel Theis, Enes Kanter. You can also throw Brad Wanamaker in there. He's been really solid for them in the minutes that he's played. Robert Williams looks like he's coming up defensively. He definitely has some promise on that side of the ball. And though this team definitely has its flaws, like size, obviously that's a big issue for them on the defensive side of the ball when they face teams that are going to have dominant interior presence. But I honestly think that they can kind of make up for it for what they can do on the perimeter with players like Tatum, Kemba, and Jalen Brown, as well as Gordon Hayward. You can throw him in there. But the players I don't think gets enough recognition for their efforts on this team are Marcus Smart and Daniel Theis. For starters, Daniel Theis is not some superstar or anything, but he has stepped up in the ways that they've needed him to, not just offensively, but defensively as well, because it is very clear they do not have some superstar big. They have to rely on Daniel Theis, who more than likely on other teams that are contenders would more than likely be a rotational big instead of a starting big, but in Boston, he's actually starting for them, and he's done a fairly decent job, and I have to give him his credit where it's due. But the other player obviously is Marcus Smart that I would like to highlight that I don't think gets enough credit for how amazing he is on the defensive side of the ball. Don't get me wrong, it's not like people don't recognize how great he is, but considering the fact that this is a guy that is 6 feet and 3 inches, the fact that he can guard anybody on the court and you are comfortable with putting him on that person just goes to show how amazing he is on the defensive side of the ball. Think about it, he's the size of Steph Curry, and he goes out there and guards guys like Giannis and Porzingis, and then can still clamp a Kyrie Irving or Russell Westbrook as if it's nothing. And considering his defensive versatility and just how potent he is on that side of the ball, it automatically makes him not only one of the best role players, if not the best role player in the NBA, but one of the most important pieces to this Boston Celtics roster. But not only have Marcus Smart and Daniel Theis stepped up, Gordon Hayward has had a really solid bounce back year that a lot of people haven't talked about, but I would like to highlight in this video. He averaged 18 points and 7 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field, as well as 38% from behind the arc and 85% from the free throw line. It's pretty nice to see him doing his thing this year after a very devastating injury 2 years ago and a tough bounce back season that he had last year. It looks like this year he has found his place in the Celtics offense, and sure, he still does have that big ass contract, but he has definitely flourished this year in the ways that the Celtics hoped for him to pan out when he originally came to Boston just a couple of years ago. But despite the high praises that I have for those players, I still have to recognize that they are role players. Those are guys that step up in moments here or there, but they're not guys that you can trust on a night-to-night basis to carry your organization and lead them to victory. And that's where the top 3 of this team comes in. They're 3 20-point per game scorers: Jalen Brown, Kemba Walker, and Jayson Tatum. For starters, let's talk about Kemba Walker, because I don't think he gets enough credit for not only how much he had to sacrifice, but his contributions as a whole to this Boston Celtics organization. Because let's not forget that when he was in Charlotte all those years, he never had great talent to play with to consistently put him in positions to contend in the Eastern Conference. The East, not the West, the East. He was in Charlotte for all those years, and Michael Jordan couldn't get him squat to work with. Don't get me wrong, he had his ups and downs. He would make the playoffs once every blue moon, but with a player of Kemba Walker's capabilities, he deserves far more than that, and I am very happy to see him winning in Boston and his talents finally being recognized for just how good he actually is. This year he's averaged 20 points as well as facilitated 5 assists a game, shooting 43% from the field, 38% from behind the arc on over 8 attempts a game, while shooting 86% from the free throw line. It may not be a career year and those numbers are not eye-popping in any way, shape, or form, but it is still solid numbers for a player that isn't even the first or in some nights the second option on a night-to-night basis, and though defensively he isn't great whatsoever, having players like Tatum, Jalen Brown, and Marcus Smart on the perimeter to help him out where he fails on that side of the ball limits opposing offenses to try to exploit him on that side of the ball, so the Celtics can kind of hide him defensively. And though I am a big fan of Kyrie Irving, I do not believe he was the problem in Boston. I just think a lot of personalities were in that locker room, not just there, but also even on the court. The way they played, it just didn't really mesh well together, having all those shot creators. But when Kemba went to Boston, he did something that Kyrie Irving was not willing to do. Whether he should have done or not is a different discussion, but he was willing to take that step back and allow Jayson Tatum and even Jalen Brown in some games and moments to take over as the man of that team. Because Kemba Walker, say what you want about him, but he's not a superstar. He's a guy that was in Charlotte for years, having nothing to work with. So when he went to Boston and saw talent such as Jayson Tatum, Jalen Brown, Gordon Hayward, guys that can create their own shot off the dribble and can spot up, play off ball, do a multitude of things, Kemba Walker realized he doesn't have to be that guy for the organization, so he decided to take that step back for guys like Jalen Brown and Jayson Tatum to run the organization, and that's exactly what they've done. In the case of Jalen Brown this year, he has had career numbers, averaging 20 a game as well as grabbing 6 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field and 38% from behind the arc on nearly 6 attempts a game, as well as a career high in his free throw percentage at 72%. Jalen Brown offensively has had his best season to date, and though he isn't some great shot creator that's going to go out there and drop 30 on a night-to-night basis, he's still a relatively decent offensive player, and being in Boston surrounded with players like Kemba and Jayson Tatum as well as Gordon Hayward definitely has helped him to be able to develop his game on a steady pace. He doesn't have defenses focusing on him on a night-to-night basis, so he can score more so in the flow of a game instead of having to get his own buckets every single play like they did last year. It's more ball movement, and though defensively he's good in one-on-one scenarios, I think he's pretty good on that perimeter. He isn't the greatest team defender. He does need to work on his team defense. It isn't great whatsoever, but he still does have a lot of promise to be an all-NBA defender on that wing, and along with Jayson Tatum, they can create one of the best perimeter duos that the NBA has ever seen. That's just how great I think they are defensively, which leads into the next and final player that we're going to talk about on this organization, and that is Jayson Tatum. Tatum this year has been remarkable. Offensively, obviously taking massive jumps, averaging 23 points a contest while shooting 45% from the field and 40% from behind the arc on nearly 7 attempts per contest. Tatum has been amazing, not just when it comes to his scoring in ISO situations, but from the mid-range game he's been amazing. From behind the arc, shooting 40%, it's ridiculous just how great he is when it comes to his three-point shot. Already even having a signature maneuver with that step back, it looks so clean and nice. And even though I can't stand this team, Tatum is becoming one of my favorite players in the NBA, and he isn't just great offensively, but defensively he's established himself as one of the best wing defenders in the league. And considering the fact that he's had to play the power forward and he's had to be matched up to players that aren't even his size, some of them bigger than him in most situations, his versatility and importance to the Celtics defense cannot be questioned in any way, shape, or form, and he has more than lived up to all the expectations for that side of the ball that the Celtics have given him. And honestly, I do think soon he does need to move to the 3, as that is his natural position, but at the 4 he can use his speed to blow by a lot of power forwards, and still defensively he holds his own, so I see why the Celtics keep him there. But I do think in the long term, more than likely he's going to need to play the small forward position. But now that we have talked about this team as a whole, it's time for me to address the question that y'all clicked on this video for in the first place, and that is if the Boston Celtics are legit contenders. And my answer to that question is yes. I do believe they can win the Eastern Conference, because when you got 3 guys that can give you 20 points on any given night, you always have a chance to win. And defensively, even though they obviously have their issues, especially when it comes to size, with Jayson Tatum playing the 4 and Daniel Tice, it's not like he's Rudy Gobert, but he still is serviceable on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm interested to see what he can do defensively in the postseason come this year. But even though I say they have a chance to win the championship, or at least get to the finals in the Eastern Conference, I do not think they're going to actually win it, because more than likely, similar to all the other Eastern Conference teams, they're going to have to run into Milwaukee, and unlike Miami, they don't have a Bam Adebayo. They don't have an Al Horford like they did last year that could stop him only in 1 game, and then they went to get swept the entire series. This is not that kind of situation. We all know Giannis is just going to run through and just dominate them night in and night out. Now, honestly, their best bet is for Giannis and the Bucks to drop probably in the 2nd round to the Miami Heat or the Indiana Pacers, but we all know that's just not going to happen. Regardless though, they still do have 3 players that can get you some solid buckets night in and night out, and when you got a guy like Tatum that can go off for 40 any given night when he's hot, you definitely have a chance to win any series when you consider his supporting cast and the coach in Brad Stevens that can make adjustments. I just don't see it happening though. But you guys let me know your opinions down below in the comment section. What do y'all think of the Boston Celtics? Do you think they're contenders or not? I'll try to interact with as many people as I possibly can. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like as well so I can keep making fire content. Hit that subscribe button and that bell for post notifications. Check out the links in the description box. Y'all have a great day. I'm out. Stay safe, wash your hands, and wear a mask. Peace.